A couple things that we have to be a little careful of is where we're coming from when we're speaking our truth, making sure that it's coming from a place of knowledge, that it's coming from a place of connectivity, that it's coming from a place of an honest place. You know, you're not coming from this egoic space, because Leos, right? Aloha, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Sorry I'm a little bit late today. I had a very interesting day. It was a little rainy, so we do a beach live and we never really know exactly what the weather is going to be like. Aloha, hey! So it was a little rainy, and then like my windscreen from my mic I didn't bring, and I really needed, because today is a very windy day, so I had to go back and get that, and the rain stopped and everything worked out. But I want to show you guys a picture of the beach because I always do, and I love to. So peaceful and nice, and I'm here having fun in the park, socially distancing and all that fun stuff. And not so fun stuff. I know it's really a challenge for a lot of people with the social distancing and like trying to find human connection and what that looks like right now, especially if you're the type of person that loves to like be that loves to like engage with people, and we've had to kind of learn how to connect with people without physically connecting with them, which can be very challenging. But what I wanted to talk about today was actually two main points. So we have a movement of Mercury, which is our planet of communication, getting our thoughts together, problem solving, tech. The way that tech works with us to connect with each other was in Gemini for quite some time. And it actually is moving into Leo. It's moving into Leo on August 5th, which is today, and we'll be in Leo until August 20th. So we have about 2 weeks, a little bit more, I guess, August 5th to 20th. Yeah, so yeah, roughly 2-ish weeks that we will be in this kind of shifted energy in terms of the way that we communicate with each other. And this, I think, is really important because we've been doing a lot of communication in the last few months, and it's been a lot of chatter and a lot of information at you all at once, and kind of a lot of quixotic information. Somebody says this and you react, and then you say this and they react, and it's just been a lot of bickering too, back and forth. And I think when we step into Leo, the energy settles in a way, and we start speaking from a place of like deep knowing and usually truth, because the sun is at home in Leo. So typically when Leo speaks, they speak from a place of truth. I mean, they could speak from a lot of places, and we'll talk about that, but generally speaking, it's coming from like a heartfelt place, and it's coming from a truthful place. Gemini loves to play, which we just came out of, like the bad guy sometimes. It's like, I think this, but then I also think this. And sometimes we get so confused with all the information that's going around. We're like, we don't know what we believe, and we don't know what information to take. I think a lot of the way that we're communicating right now, if we're communicating in a direct way, if we're communicating in an honest way and in a connected way, that's going to be really great. So, hey, I'm so glad you guys joined. So some of the ways I think that we, when I think of Mercury in Leo, I'm thinking of communication, which has to do with really like standing in your power and communicating and advocating for yourself and also for others, especially if you're communicating for a group of people that have been disenfranchised or people that don't have power. So it's not so much like yelling at the top of your lungs. Like I said, it's really in this like very rooted place where you're speaking the truth, and you're speaking the truth to power sometimes, but you're really coming from a place of like connectivity and deep love and honesty. You're also coming from a place where you have a different way of looking at things, which a lot of times can be an interestingly creative way. It comes from like knowledge that you've had from a long time. It could be ancestral knowledge. It could be coming from a place of intuition. And you want to just really put that out there in the world and let people know. And then you walk away from it. There isn't really a need to like say something and beat somebody in the head with it. You just kind of sort of say your piece, like the whole drop the mic thing. That's that Leo energy. It's like, I came here, this is what I said, and I'm done, and then you kind of let other people deal with how they're going to interpret that information. A couple things that we have to be a little careful of is where we're coming from when we're speaking our truth, making sure that it's coming from a place of knowledge, that it's coming from a place of connectivity, that it's coming from a place of an honest place. You're not coming from this egoic space, because Leos, right? Double Leos. So I understand what it means to come from a place of like I know this in my divine right, I know it's true, and I'm kind of sort of like fixed into that, and I'm not budging, even though I might have information that's telling me that I'm wrong. So we really have to be careful when we're stepping into our power, that we're really coming from, yeah, that's right, you're theorizing, yeah, that we're coming from a place of knowledge because it's something that intuitively we know, or we've kind of researched that. So you don't want to be that big boastful energy of just like, I call it the know-it-allness, and I think a lot of Leos, we get that rap for like knowing it all, and it's not so much that we're inquisitive folks, right? Folks that have a lot of have that sign in their chart and it's prominent, you love information and you love to find out what the truth is, and then you are excited about it and you're like passionate about sharing it, but you just have to be careful that in your passion and that you're in your excitement to share this exciting thing that's funny, that's interesting, that's shedding light on something, that you're not kind of blasting out all other interpretations. That's really important because like attracts like, and iron sharpens iron. So you're able to have these, you want to be able to have these communications where you're sharing something that you're really excited about, but if someone says, oh, that's so interesting, but I'm thinking that it's coming from this point of view, you're still open enough to say, oh, okay, well, that's really interesting, and this is what I'm thinking, and then you're kind of sort of building on each other, as opposed to getting into a battle of wills where it's like, well, I'm right, no, I'm right, and then you kind of escalate from there, and then you can get into some nasty kind of arguments, which again would be like the negative quality of this time, is getting into battle of the wills with people, getting into battle of the wills with people specifically in media since it's Mercury. So like, be careful on Twitter, be careful on social media, be careful what you're putting out there. You don't want it to later come back and bite you in the ass because you might have said something really direct that might have been slightly rude or really like disparaging of another person. So we want to make sure that we're like, as we walk into our conversations and as we walk into the the connections with people, we want to make sure that, again, if we're rooting it in like our personal truth and what we know and we're sharing, I think I like to think a lot of times, for me, what's helped with my kind of know-it-all and coming in with a lot of information, I'm always like, well, this is what I think, and what do you think about this? And let's have a discussion instead of coming to the place of like, this is how it is, and I have a lot of Leo folks in my life and I love them dearly, but I do feel like sometimes, in all honesty, we really can be like, well, this is the truth and this is how it is because we know, and it's like, we don't always, right? Because we could be wrong, or it could be our interpretation, or it could be some wounding or some stuff that we were dealing with and we think that this is what the truth is, and it's just not, right? So anyway, with that being said, I just want that's something for you guys to think about. If you're going into situations where you know that it's going to be a little bit of a struggle to communicate, or trying to like, in a work setting, or even with a partner or something like that, just think about like, let me come in a connective place. What am I really trying to say? What am I trying to come across as? Let me speak my truth. I don't have to use any kind of like authoritative arguments. Like, this is what I said because I said it, like, let me just speak what I have to say and then let it go. So that's something that I want to, oh, your dad's a Leo. My mom's a Leo, so I know. My mom's a Leo, and my dad, who's now passed, was a Taurus. So, ooh. Those energies. I mean, there's some like, that's a hot connection. Like, don't get me wrong, Leos and Taurians, they actually do have like a really interesting, like deep loving connection for each other. But at the same time, it's like those fixed energies, like, it's like unstoppable force meets immovable object, and we know that it just doesn't go anywhere, right? It reminds me of like a superhero story where you just have two really big, powerful superheroes, and they're equal in all ways, and they just keep fighting each other and nobody is winning. And so what you want to do is find a different kind of connection, and instead of trying to prove yourself right, think about like, well, what can I learn from someone else? When you keep that, going back to Leo, when you keep that childlike energy, because children love to share, if you've ever, like, if you have children or if you've been around kids, they love to share like their view of the world, and like, look mom, look at what I just found, or this, or I was the kind of kid, and my son was also the kind of kid, when he would learn something from school, he was so excited to share with me what he knew, and that was like so exciting, but he never disregarded like my add-on to that, so children are always interested in sharing, and they're also interested in receiving more information. And so if we keep with that childlike energy, then that is something that you can really connect to really well. So the other thing I wanted to talk about too, while we're talking about Leos and all that kind of stuff, is the Strength card. So last week we talked about the Sun card, and these two cards are associated with Leo in the tarot deck, and I really, it's interesting, I have to be really honest. So this card I often had a lot of issues with. And it wasn't because I didn't like the idea and the concept of strength. And I'm going to show it to you. It's a lady. She has the infinity symbol over her head. She's in this beautiful gown, and she's taming essentially a lion, or connecting with a lion. And I always thought, like, oh, strength is so easy. Like, when I would pick those cards for myself, really when I would do readings for myself as opposed to doing readings for other people, I would be like, oh, strength, like, oh, having to be strong, it means like I'm going through something, I'm going through some kind of struggle, and I don't want the strength card because it means I'm going to have to be strong because I'm about to go through some shit. That's what I used to have this association with this card initially. It's not the association I have with it anymore. But I do want to talk a little bit about it because I think it'll help us as we're in Leo season. We have Mercury moving into Leo, and we also have Venus going into Cancer. And so there's a quality to like the ease and the taming of the beast without and the taming of the beast within as well. And it reminds me a lot of, I love animals. I mean, like, there's, you guys, if you've seen my Instagram feed, if you've seen, like, and I talk about birds, I used to have 4 cats, a bird, and a dog. So I love wild animals. I literally would probably just be running naked in the forest with animals if I could, like Mowgli or something. Like, in another life, that was me. So there's always this quality, though, that I love when I see wild animals that are domesticated, that I feel so connected to because they're so, like, deeply connected to their primal self. And there's this, like, fear and also absolute respect that I have for them. And in a strange way, I feel like it keeps me safe whenever I've encountered, like, large wild animals, out in places, or even when I just see them at zoos or things like that. And so I think, like, when we're talking about the strength card and we're talking about, like, connecting to how to tame or ease a situation with a receiving kind of energy, as opposed to controlling something with our willpower and by force, which is kind of what I think more is chariot energy. Like, I'm like taking up the reins, even if it's not like a physical thing with your hands. It's like mental will. I'm willing this into existence. There's this ease and this knowing, and I think a lot of it really comes to connecting with the beast. Because you're connected to the lion, and there's some tarot decks which are so cool because they show, like, the lion type figure actually as some sort of serpent or dragon, and I think that's really cool too because that goes back to, like, the fire element. But connecting to this wild untamed thing, whether it be a lion, which is something obviously that exists, or some sort of, like, mythological dragon type creature, we're talking about, like, animals that are deeply connected to their, like, beast within. Like, we all know that none of us can ever tame a cat. If you had a cat, like, your cat kind of runs the show. Your dog, you can totally, like, teach how to do stuff and make sure he goes bathroom outside. Your cat, like, he'll follow the basic rules, but at the end of the day, your cat's going to do whatever it's going to want to do. And I think through deeply connecting, I used to talk when my cats would be naughty. I would just literally talk to them just directly and say, look, I need you to stop, knocking this thing off the counter, or I need you to, stop scratching up this part. And surprisingly enough, they listened to me because I felt like they were deeply, I just think that cats are so intuitive, but they're deeply connected to you on an instinctual level, and that's how you do it. It wasn't really through any kind of force or me spraying water. I've tried that before, like, don't scratch the couch and spraying water, and these things are, like, completely ineffective when it comes to wild animals. It's really through, like, deep connection that you're able to kind of adjust or, like, exert your will, so to speak. And so that quality, that understanding the beauty and having the respect and having the connection with the beast, and also with yourself, recognizing that part of yourself, not trying to cut out the part of yourself that's wild, staying wild. I mean, that's the name of this whole brand, the Wild Wahine, and Wahine is a Hawaiian word for woman or women. And so, like, the wild woman essentially is, like, the essence of what I'm putting out in the world, and us being connected to our wild selves as we have to live in this carbon-based body in the world, dealing with all the things we have to do with and paying our taxes and all of that kind of stuff that doesn't feel so connected and doesn't really feel so spiritual. We're deeply connecting to the source within our instinctual self that knows how to heal itself, that knows how to connect to another individual, that knows that, like, the world and our earth is a battery that we can ground into if we need to be recharged and all of that. So I just wanted to remind you guys that strength can appear and come about without using force, which to me is a lot more kind of Mars, Aries, where it's like through force, through sheer power and heat and like violence, I can get what I want. Leo energy and that fire, that sustaining energy doesn't come from that. One of the reasons why the sun was a symbol in so many, I mean, if you look into most indigenous cultures, there's always been, in early cultures, there's always been a worship of the sun, the great sustainer. You worship the sun because it brought you life, right? It warmed you, it helped the crops grow. There's so many things, and it wasn't like the sun was doing anything like volatile, for example, like a volcano, which can be quite disruptive in a lot of ways. You know, that's another symbol of power, and there's so many, right? Storms, and there's so many symbols, but the sun is just this fixture, this star in the sky that is constantly there, radiating this like warmth and heat and regulating, and it's because of that we're able to live on this planet and have the type of lives that we have here. So like people from old understood how important that was and respected it and revered it for what it was, and I think that that's like the energy that we're kind of leaning into as we lean into our Leo selves, our Leo season, and the Leo energy, which I'm so excited about to be honest. And it's a great time to get things done too, and just to make those like decisive decisions and just sit in those, you know, too. I think, you know, for those of us, I overheard, not that I overheard, someone that I knew actually in a Facebook group that I was in posted that she felt that she wavered on a lot of things, like she couldn't make decisions. You know, it's like she goes to make one decision and then she thinks of 5 other things that she could be doing outside of that, and she just had such a hard time like focusing on what she wants and how she wants to do it. And I think this energy of like dropping within and just kind of understanding who you are and just that deep knowing, and I mean, again, solar energy, the sun just shines the light on everything. It really is a great truth teller. You're not walking in the dark with that kind of energy. You can actually see everything that's going on around you, and you can make decisions based on that, and then you can feel really good about the decision you made and be able to, you know, go to the next thing or walk away. So anyway, one more thing I wanted to talk about today, and I hope you guys can hear me. I have my windscreen on my mic, but we're having a super windy day, but it is beautiful today. The next thing I want to talk about is Venus moving into Cancer, leaving Gemini, which I personally am very happy about. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but I just like, it's been interesting. There's been a lot in clients, in myself, and with everybody else, just a lot of separation because of the communication completely breaking down oh yay, thank you. Okay, you can hear me, fantastic. Like communication breaking down, just people communicating how they feel, and maybe you never knew that side of them. You never knew the other twin, like you knew people in one way, and suddenly they showed you their whole self, and you were just like, what? And you know, there's been quite a bit of separation. So I feel that like when Venus is entering Cancer, and let me see my dates. Okay, August 8th, moving into September 7th. So we're going to be here, you know, for about a month-ish. I think a lot of this, my hope, even though there's so many planets in retrograde, and Saturn has this really kind of on this tight wire of tightness and restriction, but I hope that what's going to happen is that the way in which we connect with people in a heart way is we're going to be able to, I hope, this is my great hope, that we'll be able to look at individuals and people and think of them as extensions of our family, right? Because Cancer is all about, and we just came from Cancer season, and we talked a little bit about that, about family, about home, about tradition, about the way that we kind of look at the world, mothering, taking care of yourself, taking care of other people, self-care, connection. Oh, you've had enough squaring my son, so I'm not wanting this. Yeah, I know. Like everybody I know is like, but I mean, it could be also a really great time to develop some romance, to develop some type of connection with somebody, or a deeper connection with people. It's a really good time for that. So there's some, so that's something to think about if it's something that's been on the back of your mind, especially because we're all like, you know, been separated from everybody. So our love life right now has looked very different. And I think for people who like have always had challenges with connecting and love and finding someone and like finding that true soulmate connection, now might be a really good time to kind of like, like look around and see what's out there, come a little bit out of the shell, and look and see who it might be that you're connecting with. If you have someone that you've been connecting with, and it could be a time to take it a little bit deeper, or to say something and present like be in a different type of connection with them. Take it a little bit deeper. Take that boldness and make it, take the first move might be the thing. Be open to receiving. I know so many folks that want things, but then they're not really open to receiving those things. So creating the space in your life for the things that you want is really important. And sometimes that could manifest in creating the physical space, I was in a class one time where the woman who was leading it was talking about there was a time in her life where she was single for a while, and then she just realized that she was really ready to be in a relationship. And one of the first things that she did, excuse me, my eyes are super watery because it's windy. One of the very first things that she did was she created a space in her home for the person to come in. And so Cancer, again, rules the home and all the things that have to do with home and beautifying the home, since we're talking about Venus. And so she cleaned out her closet, and she said, okay, well, this will be the place where his stuff will be. And she cleaned out the 2 bottom drawers, and she moved around her stuff and said, well, this is going to be the place where he puts his clothes. And she literally made space in her home for the person who will be able to come into there. And next thing you know, after doing that, and she did some meditation and a few other things, but I think the most powerful thing, at least she said that she did, was creating the space for someone to come in, and then someone came into her life, and she was able to have that kind of connection. So I think that our homes, what we're doing in our homes, creating space in our homes for our loved ones, beautifying our homes would be another thing. If you have that, like, and this is going to look a little different than like kind of that Gemini energy was like, I'm going to organize, or I'm going to get things, kind of organized and together, or maybe even Virgo. This is more like, I want to beautify my space. So it would be like the cleaning so that you can beautify. It would be the organizing so that you could put something there, and having plants come in. We could be back to what we were doing before, which is like lots of baking and like making food and connecting with our families, just having those in person, or even virtual connections over things that are beautiful. It could be music, buying musical instruments in your home, playing music in your home, getting a new sound system. So a lot of times when we have this energy of Venus, there's a lot of like luxury in that, and kind of spending, and like the sky can be the limit on the things that you love. And so one of the things that you want to make sure that you do, just as a warning, is that everybody, we can have nice things, obviously, and we want to have nice, beautiful things, but we are in this place where, there's a lot of restriction. And so being careful with what you're doing and your spending, and that it's not, overly abundant, and that you, at the end of the day, are still able to take care of all of your responsibilities, is going to be a key thing, so that we're not overspending, or that sometimes, Venus, we all love this benefic planet, but at the same time, if not careful, Venus, with all of her food and all of her beauty and all of that, can be quite petty in a lot of ways, and eat too much, and not necessarily like, mind the health of her body in the way that, she wants it, in whatever way that you want your body to look like and be. So there can be this indulgent aspect too of it, and like giving too much to the family and relationship, and then you for yourself are coming up dry. There can be also a little bit of jealousy or vengefulness in this energy as well. So as we're connecting with people, as we're kind of moving into this place of how we're treating people, talking to them, and in relationship with them, one of the things that we want to do is really think about, again, as always, where are we coming from? Where are we coming from when we're connecting with people? What do we want? Are we in balance with that? So let's see. let's see. Oh yeah, painting. That was another thing. So I feel like, and also what's interesting, because this is Leo season too, there is going to be this need to have art in your life, or wanting to have art in your life. And what that looked like before was really different. It could have been, going to the museum, painting yourself, attending a class, buying someone's painting, going to the farmer's market and looking at some of the artists' work, going to around this time we'd have like a lot of festivals and a lot of music festivals and things like that. So we're gonna have a little bit of a challenge, and I mean, Saturn's in Capricorn, which is retrograde, so everything is all about restriction and things not being easy, right? But we can still achieve those things. We just have to think about like creative ways that we can do that. There are a lot of plays that are online. There are a lot of actors I know that are doing readings that are online of new plays. A lot of the Broadway shows have been brought to different streaming networks so that you can see them. So it's going to look a little bit different, the way that we indulge in our beauty and our art, because we don't really have access to the art in the way that we used to. Another thing that we can do, especially in Leo season, is to create that for ourselves. So what are we putting out in the world? What are we creating? What are we birthing? Because the sign rules like procreation and children and all of that. And a lot of times people think that's like birthing of actual kids, which it can be, because we do look to the fifth house for that, but it also is the birthing of ideas and the birthing of business ideas and the birthing of creative pursuits and things like that. So this would be a really good time for you to put something creative out in the world, at least for that like window of time. I mean, things are looking a little bit different, especially when we go into the beginning of September, where we're going to be a little bit more tight, really all the way up until December. But for right now, we have this time period of this warm kind of sunny Leo energy, and we have a couple of things that are like shifting, and we're not looking at energy that's going to be super heavy until we get kind of towards the end of August, where things are definitely going to shift. So we just want to have the heads up for that and not panic about that, and just plan for what that's going to look like. And always in between and in those crevices, find spaces where we can find laughter and joy and comfort and love and connection with people. And sometimes we're going to need to rage and let things out. I mean, I know for myself, I do. And that's okay, as long as we're not like taking it out on others. We're under a lot of stress right now. All things are not equal. It's such an interesting thing with everything that's going on in the world right now. Everybody's in such a different place. We have people that are unaffected by this, and we have people who I was just listening to on the radio, especially here in Hawaii, are getting threatened by their landlords for being kicked out, and they still haven't gotten their unemployment yet, and our numbers are getting higher here, at least on island. And there's so many different things that are happening and going on in the world. So and we actually day to day and week to week don't know where we're going to be. We could be okay one week and then sick the next week, or somebody that we know passed, or someone is sick. So for me, it's really important during these times to really be grateful for what I have, and to plan out when I can, and really align myself with the energies, so that I'm not just like fighting and going against the wind. And I think that for me is the whole purpose as to why I love astrology and also tarot reading, is I love to be able to work with the energies. I am not about to fly against things. And I find for myself, at least, when I'm flying against the wind, I mean, you can still get to where you want. You just get a little bit more beat up and a little bit more roughed up along the way, But with that, I just want to say thank you so much for joining today's live. This is going to be put up on IGTV, and then later on today it will be on YouTube. I have a couple quick fun announcements. I am on the Healing with Aloha podcast. We shot that on Monday, and I had so much fun talking with Desalyn, who runs that podcast. So it's up right now, and I'm going to put all the links and everything up on my Instagram and my social media and all of that. But I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that I will be on that, and I'm talking a little bit about tarot and astrology and how it can help with people that are healing from grief and so forth. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, and if you watch that and if you click on her links, there is a 20% discount on all astrology and tarot readings. So go and make sure you go to her Instagram and her page. She's on Facebook as well, and like her and follow her, because she's actually just a fantastic person, and she's got some really great people on her podcast as well. Yay! So this is my first podcast. It's the baby's first podcast. So So I'm excited about that. And that's so much fun. And you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube at The Wild Wahine, Instagram, _Wild Wahine. And you can find me Facebook, The Wild Wahine, and Twitter, where I kind of sort of drop funny memes because I have a dank sense of humor, and a dark sense of humor, I should say, really, and dank humor. And let's see, was there anything else that I want? I think that that's it for this week. And thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for joining. And if you guys, oh, actually, I had one more thing. I'm glad that I remembered it. So I'm going to be doing a Q&A Monday because I, from time to time, get a lot of questions from people just about general things about spirituality or about relationships or about like just general things about like what's the difference between an oracle card reading and a tarot reading, and what is a kissology reading, and what does it mean when my sun is in, like, and all of these different kind of general questions. And I answer them because I just like to be able to give that information to people. But I realize that some of these questions other people would benefit from. So I will be doing Q&A Monday where I will take maybe 2 questions, might be 3 depending upon how much time I have, and I will be answering these questions, and I will go live. More than likely I'm going to be going live on my Facebook. So you can find me at The Wild Wahine on Facebook. I don't know exactly the time yet, so I'm going to look into that. I think it's going to be early because I have people from the East Coast that are watching in too, and you know, we're 6 hours behind here in Hawaii, so everybody I know here will see me if it's early, but I just want to make it a little bit earlier. So I'm still figuring out those details, but I just wanted to give you guys the heads up that I will be doing a Q&A and Monday, and to send me your questions if you have questions, and you can DM me the questions. I prefer to get email, Keilani, Keilani at thewildwahine.com, and any questions that you have that are, you can even send questions that, you know, anonymously. I won't share anybody's names or anything like that, so that's fine. Don't send me anything crazy or weird, like I mean, crazy's fine, but just like nothing offensive, okay? I do not answer offensive questions, but you know, if they're just questions that you want to know about anything that has to do with like astrology and tarot or witchy stuff or just life stuff, and you know, send them to me. And if I don't know the answers, and you know, a lot of times I'm not going to know the answers, I'm going to try to see if I can pull some of my friends, because I got some awesome friends who know a lot of things, like my mentors and people I like to ask. I will ask them or try to pull them in too and see if we can answer those questions. Okay, so I just want to be of help and of service at this time. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to end with the beautiful beach, as I always do, over my shoulder. There is a picture of the beautiful, so pretty. I'm jumping in there after this, so I'm super excited, even though it rained earlier. But thank you guys so much, and I will see you later. Aloha.